please don't hear any of this, Brad.
And Dad's like, I got the fuck out of there. I was like, oh man, you didn't partake?
Do you fear death?
Oh, one of the greatest lines of all time.
I could have chopped it. I could have chopped it.
Trumpinator 2020.
Making me 30 sides of red sauce.
Listened to so much. Are you
That needs two, motherfucker.
So yeah, I did watch your last one. I loved the conversation about how we grew up. And y'all are just on the cusp of my Gen X,
Yeah.
right?
Where'd you grow up?
Allen, Texas.
Okay. Was
Yeah.
it a pretty small town?
It was,
Back
let's
then?
just say when I grew up there, we had a four-way stop.
Yeah.
We didn't have a stoplight. When we moved to Bentonville, it reminded me a ton of Allen, Texas.
Really?
Except for Allen would never conform to have two football teams because they're,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking Kyler Murray.
Yeah, sure.
They bring all
Yeah.
those guys out. So, but it was a great town to grow up in. My girlfriends still live there. 50
Really?
years later, we're still friends and we still take girls' trips and we still do the things. My brother still lives in Allen. My sister lives in McKinney. I have
What's it
nieces
like
and
now?
nephew there. Bentonville.
It is.
It's
gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's just like Bentonville, except for there's only one high school.
Yeah.
Spent $60 million on their high school stadium.
I believe it.
And then it started to collapse. And the architects had to come back and rebuild it.
Really?
Yeah,
That's nuts.
it is nuts.
It's sad, you know, growing up in a small town, you don't really appreciate it when you're young.
You
It's
don't.
It's all you know until you start seeing it change, you know. And it was changing as I was in school. We put a huge subdivision across from the school, and then we, you know, gas stations and just small things here and there. But then you look back 10 years later and go, the town's gone.
Absolutely. And so now it's like I give area tours to people that are thinking about moving to Bentonville. And they're like, "Oh, so you did grow up in Texas?" And I'm like, "Yeah, now I tend into it with white knuckles every time I get there with traffic."
Yeah.
Cuz we think we have traffic here. It's nothing compared to what they have there. It's scary for me to drive there.
Yeah.
And I can't even drive without a navigation there.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know, but it was great growing up in a small town because we did the loop every weekend through McDonald's, then through the Winn-Dixie, through the Sonic, and then we all hung out in like the Winn-Dixie parking lot, and there was a 7-Eleven,
Yeah.
you know, and I mean, I didn't come from a family with money.
Right.
My parents had 5 kids, and they made $25,000 a year.
Right.
I drove a 1968 Monte Carlo.
There you go.
We called it the chili wagon.
Nice.
Every turn we took, one of the girls had to get out and get the hubcap out of the ditch
Yeah,
and
yeah.
put it back on the car. And then it got to the point where the carburetor, we would go park in the parking lot and hang out with everybody. Carburetor didn't work. So we would be the last ones to leave because we'd have to raise the hood,
Yeah.
spray the stuff
Yeah.
in the carburetor so we could get everybody back home.
Yeah.
And then my mom finally traded that car for somebody to wallpaper a room in our house.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's how old I am anyway. But it was
Gosh.
just great. We didn't have social media.
What happened
I mean,
to wallpaper? Does anybody still...
It's actually coming back, which
Is
is the
it?
weirdest thing ever. Yes. It's actually coming
You're
back.
in a kind of an interesting job, and where you see all these trends. kinda.
Right. And gold's coming back.
Yeah.
It's not the brassy gold, but yeah, the gold's coming back too.
Yeah.
So I guess if you wait long enough, I mean, the house that we live in now, I think we bought 16 years ago, and we gutted it, and we remodeled it, and now I feel like I need to remodel it again because it's crazy.
Just leave it alone. Eventually it'll come back in style.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right?
That's like, I should have never changed some of the stuff I changed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, it is what it is. But I loved growing up in a small town. Bentonville was a little bit smaller when we moved here because we moved here 21 years ago. So Taylor
So
started
you've been
third
here
grade
over
here.
20 years. So
Oh,
you've
yeah,
seen
yes.
the biggest.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, even 20 years ago, it
And
hadn't changed a
and
ton.
you know, just because I came from Allen, I was like, don't do another high school. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't
Yeah.
do it. I mean, I understand it gives more kids the opportunity,
Yeah.
but it does kind of take away your.
Yeah, football
You're
around
big-
here,
yeah,
people take it
it's
way too
crazy.
seriously. It really.
My brothers started playing football when they were 4
Oh yeah.
in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, it is crazy.
Yeah.
But they do say the earlier you start, the more you learn, the less you get hurt when you get older. So
Yeah. True.
I mean,
But
there's
that-
something to be said for that. But
so,
it is
so much
just,
of it's genetics, though, too. Some
It
kids
is.
just do not have athletic genes and just cannot do it. So, I mean, half of it is luck, and the other half is hard work.
exactly,
but-
and which kind of leads into the conversation that we're going to have, because why are you considered an outsider in school because you're not an athlete?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And that makes me very sad.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I played sports. Was
Mm-hmm.
because I was bullied as a kid. You know, I was always reading a book, and fuckers were mean to me, throwing
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
stuff at my book, kicking stuff at me, and I was like, the only way I can survive is to join them
Yeah.
and to play
And-
sports, because that
and-
was all anybody respected in a small town. Still is to a large extent, sadly.
In a big town, even.
Yeah.
Right?
Like art programs, robotics programs. Nobody gives a fuck about that stuff.
No.
It's all about the football. Hey, I love football, but it is way over importanced around here.
Way
Maybe everywhere. I don't know.
Overrated, right? I mean, there's finally we've come to realize that you can't have as many boy or men's sports if you don't have equal value to women's sports, right? Well, we never had that when I was young. I remember volleyball,
Right.
I remember basketball, and I remember track.
Yeah.
But I remember the guys had everything. And if you wanted to be a cheerleader as a guy, which I know not everybody thinks is a sport, but that's hard work.
Sure.
And then you were ridiculed for that, and you were bullied for that, and the mascots that were guys were bullied for that. And I mean, kids just, it's hard enough to be a kid nowadays
Mm-hmm.
and to make decisions that, I mean, I have a friend whose child is in band. Well, when I was young, the band was for geeks.
Yeah.
Anybody that couldn't do a sport went to band.
Sure.
Now, band is a big deal. Orchestra's
Yeah.
a big deal. I mean, you go far in life with
Yeah,
that,
it's come
right?
a long way in the last 20 years for sure.
But she has a child struggling with her sexuality. Whether I believe in any of that or not is, I'm not the judge.
Yeah.
But if I had a child, I have to support my child. But
To an
society does
extent.
not. But society does not. And so then you get these kids that are not accepted. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn.
Sure.
They don't have anybody, especially if their parents aren't involved.
Sure.
And then we have suicide,
Sure.
which is devastating to me.
Yeah, it's a very real thing. There's so many awareness months of all this stupid shit, and it really has gotten to the point where I just roll my eyes at it. But like, suicide prevention is a very, very real thing, because people in that space where they are considering doing something like that feel alone, like they have no one they can talk to. And just having somebody, knowing somebody's on the other end of a phone somewhere, knowing you have somebody to call, can save your life.
Absolutely.
You know, and I
I
definitely,
always want to be that person for
yeah,
somebody.
absolutely.
Always. I think sometimes for women, because our hormones are so different from guys or men or boys. I know that boys go through their change. I have never had a son, so I can't
Yeah.
know what you experience. But from being a woman and then having a daughter, our bodies changes, which makes our hormones change. And if you don't have any support,
Right.
and then you're a woman who goes through menopause, and a
Yeah.
lot of us end up on antidepressants.
Sure.
And if you don't have a spouse that understands what that feels like and says you just use it as an excuse, where do you turn?
Well, I think a lot of it is, you know, like my wife doesn't have any history of mental illness in her family, and
Right.
so they can't understand. You know, it's like
Right.
somebody trying to talk to me about being a paraplegic. I can't, I can try and empathize, but I can't be there.
Well-
So you need somebody who does understand and who goes through that, because it's impossible for someone to get it if you don't have that in your family
Absolutely.
history, or if you don't experience it. Same way with alcoholism. You know, a lot of people are like, why don't you just quit? I was like, it's the same with depression, right? Just turn
Right.
the happy switch on. Yeah, if there was one, I would definitely do that.
Definitely. I mean, even a pill can't.
No,
it,
not
right? Like,
truly. But that's
my
the great
father
thing.
did go in January of 2003, bilateral transplant surgery.
Okay.
Didn't let any of the family choose whether we thought he should go through it or not. We let him make his own decision.
Sure.
He wouldn't be with us today if we didn't let him make that decision. But I think it's really hard for men, and you tell me if I'm wrong, to admit that they have some depression
100%.
or that they admit that they need help, because you're supposed to be the man of the house. You're supposed to take care of
growing
everybody.
Up, like my grandpa's generation did not talk about emotions. My dad's generation did not talk about emotions. It was just unheard of. It was you were a pussy. You
Yeah,
were a
yeah.
whatever. You just didn't show those things.
Well, you didn't talk about molestation. You didn't talk about
No.
sexual abuse. You didn't talk about wife beating.
No.
We didn't.
Domestic abuse, none of that
everything was
stuff.
under the rug.
Right. And we've come a long way.
We have come a long way.
We really have.
We have.
But that's one thing that's been great about doing the podcast, is realizing, you feel so alone and isolated, and I'm the only one experiencing these things. And then when you're having real conversations, especially long-form conversations like this, you learn that, hey, we're all trying to get through this.
We
and
all
now
have
I've got so many
something.
people I feel like I can talk to
Yeah.
about whatever it is that I didn't have in my life 6 months ago.
Right.
And these are tools in my, in my
I mean,
toolbox.
we have a mutual friend going through something like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have no idea how he's feeling.
Yeah.
It's just like with my dad. I've never had a transplant.
Yeah.
I don't know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I don't know how he feels on a daily basis.
Right.
Whether he tells me he's good or not. But
But they have
it's
more
just like our
support
other
networks
friend.
now too.
Yeah.
Support groups for
Well,
people
they
that
do.
go through this
and the
or
sad
that.
thing is, he's in Texas because that's where it happened.
Yeah.
So those children that don't live there, like
Yeah.
I have a brother and sister that live there, so they're there for him. And my cousin, who is like my sister, is there for them. But those of us that don't live there kind of go through that. I don't know. Do you call it depression? I mean, didn't get good news today, and Ted was like, "Are you gonna ditch the podcast?" No, I'm gonna go. Wasn't great news because now he has lymphoma because of the transplant.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, no, I mean, I may shed some tears, but, we've recently lost a family member
Mm-hmm.
due to this,
Yeah.
Addict, clean. We had somebody at your office
Yeah. Pat.
that just breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Happened
sober,
so fast too.
sober,
Yeah.
then the medicine,
Yeah.
and then all the rehab, and then all of a sudden we lose him. I can't imagine being in your office and being that close to somebody, and
So-
then how do you deal with it as a man?
Well,
Because
he was supposed to come on the podcast. I don't know if you heard me tell that story, but I really wish that we had been able to connect. It's happened so fast
it did.
that we didn't even have time to schedule it. I mean, it was
And-
from Friday to Monday, he was in hospice, and then he was gone.
Right.
And,
And so who's taking care of his family?
Exactly.
Do they have the support they need
Right.
that they don't end up being where so many people that in our lives that
Yeah.
we've known end up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's everybody complains and everybody has a right to complain, but it really makes it hard when you know somebody's got it worse than you do.
Oh,
Somebody,
absolutely.
you know.
Every day. And I thought about that today when I got the report from the
Yeah.
doctor. It
Yeah,
was like,
100%.
I think I have problems.
Mm-hmm.
My problems are nil compared to what everybody else has,
sure.
right?
Yeah, and it's sometimes hard for people, including myself, to see if the glass is half full, right?
Yeah.
I tend to dwell on negatives, which end up taking me down a spiral sometimes. You focus on the things you aren't doing right or you can't have or whatever it might be, when if you just focus on the things you do,
Yeah.
you'd be in a whole lot better mindset.
And I sometimes, and I hate to keep saying men versus women, but I sometimes feel bad for you guys because I got the news today and I cried for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Ted got the same news and he internalizes it way different.
Well, it's something that society has imposed on
Right.
men in general, that you don't show your emotions. That stigma is removing a little bit, and I think it's been more acceptable to talk about things like mental health and depression. But also, some men are just choose not to.
Yeah.
It's. You're still holding on to that ideal, that old-fashioned ideal of, I can't talk about this. But if you don't talk about it, you can't really get help. You can't really make things better. You're just completely internalizing it, which is unhealthy, because you're just simmering and simmering and simmering, and sometimes that can cause a snap in people. And, that's why I've never really thought therapy, I mean, to me, talking to a stranger who's getting paid to do it,
Kind of weird,
me.
right?
It bothers me, and it helps a lot of people, and that's great if it helps people.
Yes.
I love it. But having somebody that I know and trust who can
you can communicate
know what I'm talking
with.
to
Yeah.
is a whole lot better, because this is somebody that loves me, somebody who cares about me.
Yes.
That's not just talking to get paid. And so the more connections, Matt Mahan was on the other night, and then my buddy Hal,
Is he the one from high school?
who wrote this book Firelight, reached out to me and asked
What's
for
it
Mahan's
about?
number. So Firelight is a book by my friend Hal Henson. So he has a housing initiative where he helps people who are going through recovery.
Oh,
And so
I
that's
would
kind
love
of what
to
he
read
does.
that book.
He
I have a sibling that is recovering.
Yeah.
Been recovered for years.
well, this is a daily reflections guide that he wrote. So like every day it's got just a different something to think about on it, but it's called Daily Reflections for Male Survivors of Sexual Abuse and Trauma. Sexual abuse and trauma, so trauma being obviously a completely different thing, but it's a very good book. I'm reading it daily right now. It's on Amazon. I think the price is $22.22, but
And if you have Prime, I bet if you have the reading app that I have, what's it called? It's orange.
I don't know. I don't use reading apps. I like
Sometimes I listen. Yeah, I know. My
I'd
daughter's
prefer
the same
a
way.
scroll if I could get them. Hard to find
You want
a scroll
the chiseled
these days.
tablet,
yes,
right?
Those are a little heavy.
Yeah.
But
The Ten Commandments. That's what you want. I
Yes.
get it. But this book then takes me to. Have you ever read Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey?
No.
You should read it. Not a lot of people like him. He's not everybody's jam. I'm not everybody's jam, right?
Yeah.
I am who I am.
Right.
So if I'm not your jam, I'm not your jam. But he was molested.
Yeah.
At
I mean, to be
18.
fair, I'd molest him.
I was too. So at 18, he watched his father kill his mother. I mean, it is a phenomenal book. And it's called Green Lights. You should check it out. I think you would love it.
I won't, because I can't read anything if it doesn't have a dragon or a spaceship in it. But I'll take your word for it. I can't read
I just
heavy
had
shit.
this conversation with a client yesterday. I took for an area tour, and I'm like, they have AMC cards because they're from Dallas, so they can go to the theaters and watch whatever they want. And I'm like, are there that really good movies out right now that you're going to go to the theater and watch? Oh, we watch everything. We watch it all. I can't do the dragons and no. I can do Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I can do him as
Deadpool.
Yeah, love Deadpool.
So
it's
let's
the
just to
only
get this
one I
straight.
think
Women
I
do
love.
sexualize men. 100% you ladies do. So this bullshit
Absolutely.
about men sexualizing women, ladies, two-way street.
Oh.
Jason Momoa with his shirt off. Come on.
You know
mean-
what? Okay, I do think he's hot from the neck down.
Don't
No
like-
disrespect
not up
for
here,
Jason Momoa. I'm not a real big, like, your beard I like because it's trim. It doesn't look like it would just prick me if
Huh?
I
We got
gave
a
you
couple
a
potato
hug.
chips in here. though.
Which
Just
is
for
another
later.
thing that grosses me out because I think there's stuff caught in there.
The flavor
And
saver.
you guys need to know at work, I have been searching for the driver's license and I cannot find it.
We're waiting. We're waiting.
And he's going to kill me for saying this. But,
He's
yeah,
the one who admitted it. So I
he
mean,
did, but he won't tell me where it's at.
I see.
It's so funny. But, yeah, of course we do. Of course we do. I mean,
Guys have
is
gotten
that
a lot
really-
of shit over the last 20 years. It's like everybody's just turned against men for
see,
the last few years.
I don't live in a glass house. I'm not a judger.
Yeah.
I like you if I like you. I love you if I love you. If I don't, then guess what? I'm just going to walk away. I don't have time.
Yeah. But
I am-
like what you were saying, it is hard for men to talk about.
It is.
And because of that stigma, it is difficult for a number of reasons, but that's why I was so proud of Matt for coming on. You know, I didn't even know we were going to talk about that. I thought we were just going to hook up after 25 years and hang out and shoot the shit. And the night before, he was like, "Hey, do you mind if I talk about this?" I was like,
And I
this
loved
has got a whole
it.
lot more interesting to me, actually.
Yeah, and
You
then
know?
I was like, wait a second. It's my birthday. And Brad didn't tell me happy birthday.
I don't celebrate
that happen?
birthdays. Annoy the shit out of me.
I know, but they don't me.
Yeah.
And I need you to know that about me. So
Well,
that's important to
Happy
me.
belated.
Thank you.
That's all you're getting out of me.
I'll take it because
Jesus.
I know how you are. I know it took a lot for you to say that, which
Yes,
I
it
love
did.
about you.
It did.
Oh God, I so miss you when I don't see. I only see you
Grown-ass
once a
people
year.
and birthdays. My one of my best friends, Jason Green, is a birthday celebrator. It's his favorite fucking holiday. Well, no, he's a big Halloween guy, but it's like I don't get it. I just don't get the birthday thing.
I don't. I mean,
Like celebrate me.
oh yeah, I feel like
Like-
I should get a present every single
People
day on my
already
birthday month.
over-validate on social. Like I have a hard time even getting into social media just to get to my interactions because there's so much need for validation. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
another thing that is really horrible for people. And you talk about depression and things.
Yeah.
If you don't have a source of validation outside of social media, that is not the way to get it.
No, and my birthday thing is kind of a joke
I get
between
it.
me and
No.
my friends.
Yeah, I
but
get it.
I get what you're saying because we didn't have social media back then. So
Right.
when I was young, and I saw somebody being bullied, people thought I was a bully, right? I wasn't a bully.
What year did you graduate?
I don't want to say because
didn't
you weren't
ask when you were born.
yet. Because you weren't born yet.
Yeah.
I graduated in 1987.
Okay.
Okay? So, I may have been considered a bully to some people because if I saw you bullying my friends, I wouldn't take it.
Right.
I would take you down.
Right.
I would take you down in a heartbeat. If I saw you bullying somebody that wasn't my friend, that was just an innocent bystander, I would take you down.
Yeah.
And when I say take you down, I mean, I only broke one girl's arm, and it was an accident. I pushed her. She fell wrong, so that's a whole misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I'm not going to let you, and even as adult today, I mean, Brad, you've known me for a couple of years. You either love me or you hate me. There's no in between
You're a
with
polarizing figure, that's for sure.
me. And so I'm going to be the person that stands up for anybody that
Yeah.
needs standing up for.
Yeah, the bullying
Whether
thing,
I agree with it or not, I don't think you should be bullied for something that you believe in just because somebody else doesn't believe in it. That
Let's
makes
talk
me
about
very
that thing,
sad.
the bullying thing, because it's very close to my heart, because
Uh-huh.
it really affected me as a young man or a young kid. It was relentless, and I could get no relief from it. But now we have a no bullying policy, right? So anytime it happens, that kid's expelled or kicked out or whatever, and now our kids are pussies. So is there a point to where we no longer have to figure out how to deal with people like that, and we're protecting kids for too long? I know bullying can go too far, but it seems like eliminating it has caused kids to basically not have to deal with adversity.
Exactly. But let's go back to the bully
Yeah.
that gets kicked out of school.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mental health issue, which is what we started talking about from the beginning, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What's he dealing with at home that he
Yeah.
is not getting help with
Yeah,
for the counselor at school that's getting paid to help them?
sure.
And I believe, and this is nothing against the USA, I believe our homeless issue is not a homeless issue. It's a mental health issue.
Certainly.
If you've ever driven through downtown Dallas on the way to where my father had his lung transplant, bridges, tents,
Yeah.
shopping carts, veterans, these are not people that can get the help they need because in their minds they don't need the help.
Right.
We can't get them into a center because if they don't want to stay, they don't have to stay.
Right.
And the only life they know is living under a bridge.
Right.
And so we just dismiss them like they're nobody. So our country doesn't have a housing issue. Our country has a mental health issue.
We 100% do. And my first experience with it was when my aunt killed herself in 1990. And so as a kid, who's just all day long just thinking of yourself and playing with your friends and right, life is good. Even though my parents were going through a lot of financial situations and stuff,
Right.
I didn't fucking care. Wasn't my problem.
And you
I didn't
didn't
even
really
know
about it.
Right. And so I'm just having this great life, and all of a sudden she does this, and I'm like, I didn't even know people could do that. It was like,
Because
so as a
what are we
10-year-old,
taught?
you're
not allowed to do that.
Rocks you.
Yes.
But it's hard to process as a child, and then as you get older,
Isn't it hard to process as an adult?
Yeah, it kind of is.
It really
but
is.
as somebody who has suffered with depression, I can understand that mindset of people who are in that space and
Yeah.
time.
I have the same thing.
Yeah.
I take medicine on a daily basis.
Yeah. I feel like we're also over medicated as a society,
Yes.
and a lot of medicines, like birth control for instance, changes hormones. It does all kinds of shit to women that a lot
And
of
we
people don't
already
look
have
into.
so many hormones to deal with.
And on a monthly, but your hormones change more regularly
Every
than
single
men.
time.
So you start adding these chemicals, especially in kids. If a kid's melancholy because they're stressed for a test or something, and a parent takes them in and they get put on medication for something that's totally normal, because regular depression is normal. People get anxious and they get depressed. Some of it is just part of life. It's the stuff that goes above and
Why
beyond.
are we teaching our kids how to cope instead of medicating them?
Well, parents are lazy. Parents in this generation are lazy as
And you know
fuck.
what I have to say to you about your family? I follow you on Facebook. I know you as a person. I've met your wife. She's a nurse, so she's a caregiver. I love to watch your boys. And I just talked to your youngest outside.
Middle.
They play with snakes. They play with sticks. They're on their four-wheelers. They're shooting their BB guns at cans. They're in here with your podcast because at our age, we really don't even know what we're doing, right? And I said to him, I just love the way that you live your life, because they're here and they're doing their thing. And
Yeah.
to me, as a parent, to another parent, I think you're doing a fabulous job.
Well, thank you.
I have to commend you for that.
Let's hold the compliments until we get through the teenage years. I don't want to take
Well,
any...
you have boys, so you're going to be a little bit better. We had a daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, she turned 16 when she turned 3.
Yeah.
She used the F word when she was 3, climbing up the stairs, tripped on a stair and fell. And she said, "Oh, F." And I was like, I looked at Ted and he looked at me and he was like, "You know where she got that." And I said, "Well,
Yeah.
the scary thing is, I don't know if it's scarier that she knows the word or she knows how to use it
appropriately." Well, no, that's one funny thing about when Levi Dixon and I were talking the other day, and he mentioned we were talking about movies that we saw as kids on television and then
Yes.
saw later and realized parts were edited out or the language was edited. Like, we were so protective of kids from curse words back then. And, like, that's never been one of my things. I'm like, they're going to hear it from me. They just need to know how to use it appropriately or who to use it around.
And my brothers and sisters absolutely are mortified when I'm around their young children. Now, they're grown up now, but
But
they
let's
would
think
always
about
be
this.
like, language. And I'm like, what?
But
I'm
it's
sorry.
it's a series of consonants and vowels that come out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, if you just said that the worst word in the world was Kafarlik, and then, like, society placed importance on it, it's just sounds. We as society make that. It's like women with
Bad.
the word cunt. Like, it flips them out. Like, there's women that, like, my buddy Nicole Bynum, she takes it as a badge of honor, right? But most women lose their shit when you, like, that's the one thing you don't say. But it's just, like,
I mean, but if you are one,
own it.
own it. Take it.
But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
words have different, like fuck
People
is
have called
like
me
the
a
king.
bitch before, and I'm like, dude, I've been called worse. You did not offend me just now.
But that's one thing I think white men are immune to. We don't have any words. There's nothing, dick, asshole, like, yeah, okay. Like, what? We don't have...
Explain that
We don't
further
have-
to me.
We don't have a slur that offends us.
No, because you know what? But because the shows we watched, I mean, you're what, 10, 11, 12 years younger than me?
I graduated in 2000, so what, 13? Yeah.
Okay. So 10, 11, 12 was good enough. You didn't have to bring up 13, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Pay
I
attention
watched
to
Sanford
detail.
and Son.
Yeah.
I watched The Jeffersons. Honky is not a word that has ever bothered me one time in my life. And, you know, my daughter, as beautiful as she is, beautiful soul, great person. Her boyfriend is, I'm going to say black because that's what I call him. And that's all really she's ever dated. And we're good with that.
Yeah.
And we have conversations.
As long as
and
he's a good dude, that's all that should matter.
he's a good dude. And,
That's
you know,
the end of it.
they work well together. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's words that probably offend him. But he is grew up of, I can say something that probably somebody else would say that would really offend him.
Yeah.
And he's like,
No.
I don't care.
I'll say something a little
You gotta
controversial,
be
not
you
so
gotta
controversial.
be careful, but yeah.
It's liberal white women who create all the fucking problems for people by getting offended on behalf of other people.
You know what? Karen, stay in your lane.
Karen, stay in your lane.
Karen, stay in your lane. This is
Quit
where
getting offended on behalf of others. If they want to get offended, it's like the Washington Redskins thing, right? Like the family of the guy that drew it,
I
who
don't
was
even
Native
know their
American.
names anymore.
It's just we're erasing them because it's with the name of offensive. It's like the guy who, the actor that played Uncle Remus in Song of the South. Disney deleted that movie from their catalog because it portrayed slavery in not evil enough way. It was a family movie, and you erased that actor's favorite role.
Well, and my favorite syrup in the whole world is Aunt Jemima.
Right. Why can't you have a black woman? That seems a little racist to me.
Right?
That you're getting rid of Aunt Jemima.
Right. She's
Like
A
she was the
freaking
face
icon.
Exactly.
She made your family all the money they have today.
Right. But did you hear black people raising their fists saying
No.
they wanted her deleted, or was it white people on behalf of black people? That is the shit that pisses me off. Like, if it legitimately offends you, all right, we can have a conversation. But we don't need
you know
to be.
what? If it offends you, then just be offended. But why do you have to be the Karen that now that we have social media, which
I think it goes back to that validation thing. People want to be
and
validated.
it's so funny because last night this guy that me and my friends that have been friends since we were 10. So what? I just turned 56.
I thought you were 30. You look 36.
Thank you.
But the math, yeah, okay.
Love
to
you for
redeem
that.
myself.
You did. You don't ever have to tell me happy birthday again.
Good, because I won't.
But I'll remind you that you have to tell me anyway.
Yeah.
But we've been friends since we were 10. And this guy pops up like we went 2 years ago on a girls trip, right? And my great friend Tina Wagner, who's a realtor in the area, and she's phenomenal, made us these shirts for our trip that said "Best Bitches,"
I saw that.
and we went all around
Yeah.
Oklahoma City with them.
Yeah.
Well, then this guy from my high school pops up and starts posting all of this shit last night. I'm thinking it's funny, going, dude, if you thought you were scared of us then, you should be really scared of us now.
Yeah.
And they all got really offended. And I'm like, y'all, this is funny to me because this is the guy that tried to get with me one time when I had a boyfriend and I wouldn't. And I said, where did he come from? He's been silent all these years and now all of a sudden he wants to start posting on our stuff.
Yeah.
You know what? You're jealous. We would have never left you out of our group. We weren't mean girls. We were friends with everybody. But where did you come from? And why are you now dissing us on social media? This is just crazy. And that's what brings on a lot of depression for people. Brings on the bullying.
Yeah.
Because now they can do it in public.
Yeah.
And now they can just immortalize you. And one of my friends in all our groups, we loved her, but she was always the most hyper-intensive person in our group. And so if she got just a little bit offended by what was going on in our car, she would be like, I'm opening the door and I'm getting out. And she would open the door and she would go out of the car while it was running. So later before we graduated, her dad got with her mom's best friend, and then her mom died a couple months later in her sleep, and I guarantee you people die of broken hearts.
Oh, yeah.
I believe in that. It's a thing.
It is a thing.
And then,
well, you lose your willpower.
right.
You stop fighting.
And then 4 years later,
yeah.
if you know anything about Dallas, she jumped out of a car on Stemmons Freeway and got hit.
Really?
That's mental illness.
Oh, sure.
That's not something that you just say, I'm going to do right now. It's something that you're finding a way.
Well, I want to talk about people, like, so being offended in and of itself, my uncle used to say, the only thing that offends me are people who get offended.
Yeah,
Right? Because
right?
it's like, everybody's so different, right? And that what might offend one is not going to offend somebody else. But we became such a Karen state for 10 years. Like, comedy died. We lost comedy for 10 years.
We didn't lose Matt Rife.
Well, he wasn't born 10 years ago.
He wasn't,
Or
but
he wasn't.
he'll bring it out
He
today.
was born, but he wasn't
full
around
force.
comedy scene. Comedy's back.
Yes.
People are tired of this offended or fake. And half the people who are offended are fake. It's just virtue signaling to say, I'm involved or something else. But, like, getting offended, like, fucking deal with it. Like, we just don't have to deal with adversity anymore.
No.
Everybody's protected by everything. You were talking about your friend. Like, what was going on with her that made her do that? Did you guys know?
Well, it was always odd to us that she would want to jump. But I think that when her father had an affair with her mother's best friend, and they divorced, and then they got married,
Mm-hmm.
and then the mother died, how do you recover from that? I mean, unless you have somebody
Yeah. Again,
in
it goes
your
back
life
to that. Yeah.
that will help you.
As an anchor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we all tried.
Yeah.
But she just wasn't having it. And she was one of us that I felt like we all knew, like a lot of them, they grew up together because some of their moms were friends, right? But we tried.
Yeah.
And it never set with her. It never resonated because she was ridiculed for the kind of hair that she had or the kind of body that she had, and those are the people that when I went to high school with was like, we're not doing this. You're not going to do this to my friend. We're not going to have it. If we have to come to blows, we'll come to blows, but I'm not going to do it. You're not going to treat my friend like that. Had another friend that got pregnant when she was a sophomore in high school. They kicked her out of school. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm still friends with her today.
Yeah.
And her and her husband are together. But why? Why do we dismiss the kids that need the help the most?
Yeah.
And it's not even just kids. It's adults. It's the people we see under the bridges.
Yeah.
It's the people that need money. Oh, they don't need money. They got a dog and they got a pack of cigarettes. I say the same thing. But you know what? I'll give them a toothbrush and some toothpaste. I may not give them money,
Right.
but I'll give them something to make their life better.
Yeah. But with your friend, did she have a history of mental illness to your knowledge, or was it like,
I
did you
mean,
see it coming, or did you think it was just
We just thought it was weird that she always wanted to jump out of the car. I'm not going to say that.
So was that a cry for help in retrospect?
I believe it was, and I believe we didn't understand it at the time.
Right.
But I also believe that we did a lot of things that we were young, that we did when we were young,
Right.
that we don't do now. And maybe had we been in a complete state of mind,
Yeah.
that we could have done better. But there were a few years there that we all went our separate ways, and that happened when we did.
Yeah.
And then we all came back together after that, and we've never lost contact.
Well, that's good. One thing I'll say about, when you're in a low point, what I call 6 o'clock, right? When the clock's pointing
Yes.
all the way down, you're at your
Yes.
lowest of your low. The best thing for you is to be with somebody who cares about you and to be able to talk, right? But when you're at 6 o'clock, you want to be alone. It's almost like an anti-survival instinct. It's like you just want to retreat and be away from everybody, which, if I have plans with somebody and I'm at 6 o'clock, I cancel them.
Right.
Which is the worst thing you can do. Whereas if you don't cancel them and you say, all right, we'll go ahead and do it even though I don't want to, it can bring you out of it by just having that camaraderie and friendship. And
And
now
that's what
you're not
Ted asked
dwelling
me.
on your
That's what Ted asked
bullshit.
me this morning.
Yeah.
After I got the news about my dad. He goes, so did you check out? Are you canceling on Brad?
Right.
I'm like, no. I need
Yeah.
Brad right now.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm just like, no. Do I spend a lot of time with him? No. Once a year we get together and we come up with shit.
Some bullshit.
Bullshit.
Some good time
right?
bullshit.
We do some good
The
time
best.
bullshit.
The best kind.
We did. And it's a good thing we don't do the other podcasts we talked about, because
Yeah.
if we went over the line, I would not be a realtor, and you
Yeah,
probably would
no.
not be still have a job.
You still got to keep it within
yeah,
the
you got to
lane.
keep
but,
it in the line. But no, I was like, no, I need to go here because the first time I got the bad news about my dad a couple weeks ago when he went in ICU, I did cancel a couple appointments with clients, and I had another agent fill in for me.
Sure.
But this time it was like, no, I got to go. I mean, you know, I need Brad at this point. I need this talk because this is what this talk is about.
Yeah, 100%.
And if I don't have an outlet for it, I will just sit at home and cry, and you will sit over there and you'll be supportive of me and you'll be a great guy. But, you know, I mean, he's been in my life for, 36 years he's been in my life. So he's known my dad for that long. My dad's only going to be 75 at the end of this month.
Yeah.
So Ted's known him for half his life, right? So... yeah, he has the same emotions. He just shows them differently.
Right.
But he always asks, do you need to check out? Do you need to go to the bed for a while?
Yeah.
What can I do for you, right?
Yeah.
So he's always supportive
Ted has a high
that
level
way.
of self-awareness.
He does.
Awareness of
And I
what's
think he
going on.
does that with you guys at work, too, I think.
He has a good sense of awareness.
Yeah.
For sure. But that is, like
But
you
not everybody has that.
most people don't.
So
Most
what
people
can
have
we
zero
do to
self-awareness.
help them get there?
Well, I think honestly, when you start, I don't know if you're a big fan of RFK, but a lot of the stuff he talks about the chemicals that are being put in food and birth control and all these things, like we're overloaded with stuff that's changing our DNA, for God's sake.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we have 9 and 10 pound babies now. We didn't have 9 and 10 pound
I mean,
babies.
you look at the size of NFL players in the 60s and 70s versus
compared to
today.
right now.
I mean, is that just weightlifting? I mean, no. People weren't 6'7", 6'8" back then. People are getting bigger. Periods are starting at younger ages now. You know, now it's down as early as 12 years old in some girls. Things in the food.
And those things right there, the periods, these girls don't know how to cope.
No, I
Unless
can't
they
imagine.
unless they have a good mom.
Yeah.
Because dads, you just don't understand because you've
get
never
it,
been
and you
there.
don't even want to go there.
You don't want to go there, but
No.
I mean, it's just like, please have. So my cousin that lives in Texas that gives my mom a lot of support with my dad, she has a daughter. I consider her my niece.
Sure.
Right? I consider my cousin my sister.
If
she
you're in
doesn't want to
Alabama,
talk
it might be. You never know.
Well,
Oh, wait.
she
is
could
it-
be married to her cousin as well and then have kissing cousin baby. But that's hilarious that you say Alabama because I would have said a different state.
Mississippi.
You can just go all day long. But let's not offend everybody. But, you know, I will send her texts and, you know, it's homecoming and my cousin didn't grow up in the best family environment. And there was abuse and so she's so protective of her daughter, right?
Yeah.
It was so funny because today was homecoming for them and y'all in Arkansas have no idea what homecoming means in Texas.
Well, y'all do everything bigger in Texas.
Well, do you know what a mum is?
I don't suppose I do.
If I showed you this, even Ted said, that is so obnoxious. So they're actually mums, and they have ribbons, and
Were you talking about
wear
the
'em to-
flower?
Yeah, and
The
they have
mum-
all these ribbons, and you wear them
Yeah.
for homecoming.
Okay.
And you have a date. You never go to the dance because nobody ever wants to go to the dorky dance, right?
No.
I mean,
We're out
it-
fucking in the back seat of a car somewhere. I was there.
Okay.
I know. I remember.
We're not going to air this live, right?
It ain't live.
Ask Ted about the pole he backed into.
Uh-oh.
Oh, God, he's never going to let me come back and see you.
Probably not. This is a one-time shot. You better make it count.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But I did have a lot of support. I had a lot of friends. Even today, I get these updates from my mom, from my dad in Dallas, and I send it to my girlfriends.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're praying for you. Ted's best friend, Rod Bedelli and Shannon Bedelli are our best friends here, and we send them updates, and they're always praying for us.
Yeah.
And you just gotta have your people.
Yeah.
You gotta know who your people are.
Well, that's a tough thing in and of itself, because there's so many people who are
I wanna show you
just
this
trying to fit in.
Absolutely.
And the kind of friends they have are completely superficial.
Yes.
And that is no good at all. And if you're playing that game where you're just trying to fit in with society versus having quality, I've always been of
Can't do it.
the attitude, I'd rather have 3 close, trusted friends than 300 acquaintances or superficial friends, because those don't mean anything.
Nothing. Nobody will support you if that's what you have.
No, it's all for show.
Never.
And if you dip outside of what's unacceptable in society, you're dead to that person, right? Because
Yep.
you're not following that line. And it's the two extremes who are the most judgmental about, what do we have here?
As a homecoming mom
This is a homecoming mom. This is
from Texas,
this is that's a little aggressive, is it?
is
not?
very obnoxious. Very obnoxious.
But that can't
They
be.
have to wear them around their necks now. When I was young, they just pinned onto our shirt right here.
Right.
But nobody knows what a mum is because
Well, isn't
they're
that-
not from Texas.
But it's a short for chrysanthemum, right? Like originally, like they used to have.
I don't know. You
My
get
mom-
more in depth than this than
My
me.
mom plants mums. That's one of her favorite flowers. But it's like the corsage and stuff. Did they actually use a chrysanthemum, or is mum its own term for
Well,
that gaudy?
When I was
shit?
young, it was a true mum.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they make their own.
They're just called mums. But
So
they're-
the bigger, the better?
Yeah, yeah.
But they're so obnoxious. If you can look at the girl in the picture that I just showed you,
I couldn't see a girl. All I saw was a
Okay.
giant pink
look
monstrosity.
at the girl too. And this is what society does. Look at her face. What the hell do you have on?
I don't know. They're having fun.
They are having fun.
Look at this girl. Hold on.
Hey,
Look at it. I gotta see
that's
this.
what I'm telling you.
This
That
is-
girl.
This is an actual reaction to that picture. It's too bright to see, probably. Can you get it?
I'm like, she's like, what
She's like,
the
what the
hell? Yes.
That's funny. To spot that.
Right? I'm like, there's always somebody, right?
Yeah. But I'm an extreme person. Like I like going to the extremes.
I do too.
You know.
This is why we get along.
But most people don't. Most people like to keep it real. Most people are boring, though.
I'm not,
Trish.
I mean, I'll go to the extremes, but I also don't want to ever make somebody feel inferior. And I think that
Certainly
being
not.
in real estate has
Yeah.
really helped me with that. Because when I was
Yeah.
young, I was really judgy with people. And
When you were young.
yeah,
So you've completely moved past this judginess, have you?
not always. I'm just not as judgy. I'm just not as judgy.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like I'm more empathetic towards
Yeah.
some people because we live in such a different society than we lived in when I was young. Like I said, I have
Better
a
in
friend.
some ways, worse in others.
Right. And I have a friend that has a daughter that's struggling with her sexuality.
Yeah.
And, her and her mom and I are great friends. And her mom just says, you know what? Find your weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
Find the weirdos in your friends and hang out with them.
But how much of
they'll
this
never leave
sexuality
you with-
thing is a trend? Is is trans the new goth?
I don't know because you know what? I feel like we can relate this all back to depression.
Yeah. You're
When we
looking
were
for
young,
something.
And people were looking for something
Yeah.
and they never could find it.
Right.
And so they didn't know where to go because
Right.
our parents, our grandparents,
Right. And you don't fit
They-
in
nobody
with the,
talked
you
about
don't fit
it.
in with the rednecks or whatever, but this
Uh-uh.
group is accepting of you and it's
Yes.
the LGBTQIAAP plus community. and you gravitate toward that because they're accepting, but you're not necessarily. I'm just asking. Like
No,
my cousin,
no, I'm with you
my
the
cousin
same way.
Jackie was, she was a hellion growing up, and so was I. And I was like, well, at least I'm not Jackie, because she was always a little more off the deep end. I love you, Jack. But like she told me that she when she was growing up, she just did whatever extreme thing she could do to piss off her parents, to rebel. And she said if the trans thing was around when I was in high school,
She would
I
have
would
done
have
it.
done it. Just
So I
to
have an
rebel.
older sister that did all that shit.
yeah,
So I'm not saying I didn't do it, because I did do it.
yeah,
I just learned from her how not to get caught.
okay,
All right?
sure,
So I did all of those things as well. Trans wasn't a thing when I was young.
Right.
I mean, we couldn't wear shorts to school.
yeah,
The guys couldn't have facial hair.
yeah.
Their hair had to be up to here.
How ridiculous does that sound?
I mean,
now?
it's so dumb now, right? Because what
But that's
were
even
you
a ni-
trying to protect us from?
You had to wear dress shoes.
My
6 years
guys,
ago.
my guy friends all drove pickup trucks with gun racks, and they had
the doors unlocked.
the doors unlocked, and they had the guns in the racks.
Oh yeah, I know. That was in my like I
So
was.
what
that
are
was
we
my
doing
high
now with all of our shootings? You can't tell me it doesn't go back to depression without
Well, of course
family
it does. Of course it does.
that will support you.
And none of these people are mentally stable. You don't
None.
just go in and.
No, you can't.
You know, now the thing about school shootings is like, I understand a high school. I can understand the mindset of these people bullied me. I want to eliminate these people who like. But when they go after like elementary school, that to me is the most tragic. Not they're both tragic. I'm not trying to diminish
No,
one or the other.
no, absolutely.
But like, I don't understand.
These are little bitty kids.
I can at least understand a revenge thing where it's like, you guys have been mean to me and I'm going to go after you. But when they go after like elementary kids, that's something I can't even.
I can't
No matter
fathom.
how I try and look at
No.
it, that's just pure evil. They're both evil, but that.
So Taylor's third grade teacher, when we moved here from Connecticut, Taylor's third grade teacher also was from Connecticut.
Okay.
And so Taylor,
Third grade teacher here?
yes,
Okay.
automatically cling to her. Her mother was a teacher at Sandy Hook. That was our biggest, devastating.
Yeah. That's one of
Right?
the ones I was referencing. Like,
And so then you don't just have children you have to counsel. We have adults.
yeah.
You have teachers that couldn't protect their kids. You have principals that didn't know how to protect their kids. You have office staff that didn't know how to protect their kids. What are they going through today?
Well, what do you think about the parents of the shooters?
My heart goes out to them.
Because they're victims too, right?
Brad, I mean,
No,
This-
everybody
this-
wants to
this-
point fingers
no.
and blame them,
And-
but it's like,
and I'm even my heart goes out to the shooter, and I
Yeah.
will not be
sure.
I will not be popular for saying this.
No, I
But
understand
you
what you're
could put this kid in jail for the rest of his life. But when he gets well, he's never going to be well.
No.
Because he's never going to be able to not live with it.
No.
And the parents.
Well, most of them get shot anyway. Most of them die.
And the parents, I can't imagine. Can't imagine. What movie did I watch not too long ago? And it was a true story. And it was about the Amish. And this woman left the Amish and married a gentleman that wasn't Amish. But he went to the school. So he and his wife had a daughter that died the day after she was born. He goes to the Amish school, tells all the boys to get out, and opens fire on all the Amish girls and blames God for all of it.
Okay.
How and the Amish community went to her home and took her into their arms and said, "We are here with you for your pain.
Yeah.
We are not mad at you. You did not do this."
Yeah.
I mean, why can't we do that more as Americans? Why can't we do that more as
because
as
we're tribal.
society?
We are just as savage as we were 2,000 years ago. We're tribal. Just think about football. Break it down to something like football.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you hate LSU fans or Tennessee fans, and it's we get tribal with sports. We get tribal with politics. If I'm on the right, I have to agree with every single thing they bullshit. That's again another thing society tricks you into, and that's why we have no individuals anymore. Nobody's interesting anymore. Everybody's just a boring. I vote straight ticket this, or I'm just straight ticket, and I believe in this or that. It's a tribal nature, and I think everybody is forced to be a Republican or a Democrat or a Razorback fan or a LSU fan or whatever it is, and we put ourselves in these boxes, whereas the cool space to play is in between.
Yeah.
Having friends with both sides, because both sides have value.
Yeah.
The most hateful, intolerant people I know are the extremes on both sides, because there is no acceptance or tolerance.
Oh, because it's their way or the highway, man.
Right.
We've always heard that, right? It's
Right.
their way or the highway.
But I mean, the left is much more empathetic. The right, to me, is more structured and masculine. It's almost like a masculine feminine thing.
But why can't we just play in
But
the
we need
sandbox
both.
together?
You need both in reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's that tribal nature. My tribe has to win. But fuck that. Fuck
No.
this tribalism
No.
stuff in our society.
I
We got to
don't-
get
I
away
can't.
from that, because most of the people we're talking about, school shooters, whatever it is, a lot of these people feel like they have no tribe. And it can even be a group
when they
of friends.
do have a tribe, because I have a family member that had a tribe, I went to the funeral and I listened to his tribe. But something happened that he didn't feel like he could go to his tribe.
Yeah,
And then he was just gone,
yeah.
you know?
Well, that's why I was wanting to talk about, like, the parents of the shooters, because I can see it from two ways, and I don't know anybody that is
a school shooter. I don't know any
parent of one
either, right.
But I see it one of two ways. A, they're going through trauma too.
Yeah.
They lost a child.
Yeah.
In most cases, these guys get shot. But the other part of me says, did you not see anything? Like, were you not close enough to your kid? Like,
Were you
I feel
not
like
coherent? Was your child on Dungeons and Dragons every day instead of like your children who were out with the chickens riding their
no, my oldest one is
four-wheelers?
a huge D&D fan.
Pardon me?
My oldest one's a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan.
Which is fine. But you limit that as a parent. You don't let him play that 24/7. I know you
wouldn't
better
do
than
anything
that.
24/7.
No.
But I'm just saying, like, I don't think D&D is
There's
causes
a
evil.
but
You're talking about
if you're somebody that isn't
you're
dark
talking about somebody
web,
who's obsessed
yes,
in the world of
yes,
no matter what
yes.
it is.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying anything about Dungeons and
Yeah,
Dragons.
okay.
All I know is it's a game that
Yeah.
kids play.
Well, when I grew up, I was told that it invited Satan into your home, and that you would go to hell for playing it.
You know what? I was told the same thing about the albums if I listened to them backwards.
I was told the
AC/DC.
same things about listening to them forward. You listen to Metallica,
I mean,
you're going to hell.
I
And
still
so-
have all these albums, and I got
Yeah.
a new record player Ted bought me for Christmas, and I have all
like-
my dad's
you like
old
the vinyl?
albums. I love vinyl.
All right.
I love
what's
vinyl.
the deal with vinyl?
You know what? I mean, it's not as clear as what you can get
But
nowadays.
just the inconvenience of, like, the needle and all. That's what I'm talking about.
That is inconvenient. So I did have a vinyl player from the 1960s,
Yeah.
but I couldn't find anybody to work on it for me. So I
Yeah.
finally took it to recycling.
Yeah.
Because back then, when we
Nobody, I
listened
don't
to
know who works
vinyl,
on those now.
back then when we listened to vinyl, it would flip the record for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it would drop the record for you. Now you have
I
to do
forgot
it
they
yourself.
had those. Yeah.
So that was.
I never
that
had
was-
one of the auto flip ones.
I
My parents
did.
had one that you had to just flip.
No, I did.
But I hated
and I
vinyl.
loved it. But now I have to flip my own. But you know what? I don't know. It's just it's from my childhood. It
So
makes
I was
me
going to
happy.
ask you, because, like, I'm a CD guy, because CDs came out, and I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about
God.
cassettes anymore, and that was my jam. You skip tracks, but I still love physical media. Like, I still buy every album that comes out on physical media. So that's what I was wondering, is it a nostalgic thing?
It is a
reminds you-
nostalgic thing, And you got to remember, when I was young, we had CDs.
Yeah.
Now, when I was really, really young, we had 8-track tape
Oh yeah.
players.
Yeah.
So we used to have our record player, or not our record player, I'm sorry, our radio, where we would push 2 buttons and we could play a mixtape and we could make our own mixtape and listen to them all the time. Now, it took Ted, we've been here 21 years, we've been in our house 16 years, so the years before that, I was like, we're not moving these CDs. I mean, not CDs. We're not moving these cassette plate tapes. We got to get rid of them. It broke his freaking heart.
Yeah.
I mean, it broke his heart. Now, I will invite you to my house, and I have a whole drawer of CDs that I'm fixing to get rid of. Anybody can have them where they want, because guess what? I need a place to store my vinyl.
There you go. Vinyl's coming back.
It's back.
I actually
And
don't
now, I mean, I could buy a vinyl record for $2.
Yeah.
Now it costs me $40 to buy vinyl.
It's become trendy again. And
That's
they can
why I
jack
use
the
Apple
price up.
Music.
But if you go to flea market, like flea markets around here, there's some great. The one up on 102, up in on the NWAC exit.
Yeah.
They've got a whole booth. There's nothing but vinyl. Like there's several ones around here because I go bald eagling quite a bit, and I just see these whole
I want
booths
to
of
go.
nothing but.
Can I come with you?
Yeah, we can eagle
'Cause-
up. I just did a session yesterday, so we got to wait for a cycle.
Okay.
You gotta.
Because Ted hates. He says, if you bring something home, you got to take something out. And I'm like, you know what? My house, too. I'm going to bring it home if I want
That's what's
it.
nice about with my marriage. Like, I don't have to bring anything into her house. You know what I mean?
Because you got your place.
She's like, you keep that shit over there and go as wild as you want, and this is mine. I'm like,
And
that's
Ted
fair.
would be so
That's fair.
good with that.
That's fair.
But I don't have
actually
this
want
other
to start
building.
a podcast called like Brad Durham's Flea Marketing Fiasco or something, where we just go to flea markets.
B&T, flea marketing. We could do this.
Dude, that would be fun.
Wouldn't that be so fun?
Yeah, dude. Because flea markets to me are like, they're cooler than museums.
Because there's always a story from somebody's past of why they're selling what they're selling.
But even like it's just a jumble of stuff from like the early 1900s with your antiques up into the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like it's just Americana from every decade.
Yes.
Like it's just so cool, and it reminds me of my childhood and even the antiques. You know, going to the flea markets with my mom, and when I was younger, you know, that aspect of it. It's a jumble of all times and places at once.
Right. And I love it.
And my
I
kids
love
love going,
sifting
too.
through it.
Yes.
My child
It's one
is
of my favorite
like,
things to do in life.
what? And I'm like, okay. I mean, her and Ted are so much alike.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that I don't have 2 kids. I love my one child to heaven and back. That's always been our saying. But, you know, when she was young and we lived in Connecticut, I worked at her school during the day, and then I sold, which really helps me with the bullying thing, because I worked a lot with the disabled children.
Yeah.
And so learning disable, and then have you ever heard of brushing? So some kids that have like, they're on the spectrum, you would brush them with a soft bristle brush, and that's what helped them calm. Right. So I learned a lot there, but I also sold what was called Party Light, which was a candle company at night. So Ted would always be home with Taylor at night while I was out doing these independent consultant parties. So they have a relationship that is just phenomenal, right? She calls Dad for some things. She calls Mom for money,
Sure.
right? Because if you know Ted, he's a little tight with his money. But she's a great kid, and she's one of those kids as well that never took the bullying, because one of her best friends growing up do I dare say this out, was gay.
Yeah.
Taylor was not.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's a they, them. They're no longer friends. Something happened. I don't know what it was. She never wanted to share it, which I'm not going to make you tell me something you don't want to tell me. But I want to make sure that you're okay with whatever's happened.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like...
I lost a lot of gay friends, you know.
Yeah. Well, but it's kind of like coming back to the molestation that we went through when we were young.
No, I was making a Matthew McConaughey joke.
I know you were.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, it did happen to me.
Sure.
And so, when you're little, when I was little, you don't know that that's wrong. You don't know who to tell.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know what that was.
I
would
didn't.
You?
No.
And that's why
And
they're
so-
that's why people with
People are
kids
yeah,
put me in a rage. It's unlike any other.
Yeah.
You know.
And so, you know, I repressed that memory for so long. And
When did you realize that that's what happened, though? Like, you don't have to talk about it. We can talk about
Probably when Ted and I went through marriage counseling.
it. Yeah.
And it came back up, and I talked to my mom about it, and I would try to replay the place that it happened and the time that happened.
Yeah.
And she couldn't pinpoint it, and Ted was so supportive, and he you know, he never made me feel inferior. And he was so great about it. And he may not like me telling all this business on but I wanted to help somebody.
Yeah.
I want somebody to always know they have somewhere to go.
Yeah, certainly.
Find your weird person.
Yeah.
Find the person that knows you. Find your... I am lucky enough to have a dozen persons.
Good.
Right?
That's awesome.
And not everybody has that.
Oh, no. Some people don't have any.
So...
But also, again, like I was talking about, if you chase superficiality and you chase the wrong things, you will find yourself very lonely because you're
lonely.
not dealing with quality.
Quality.
You're dealing with quantity.
Quantity.
I can't speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I like to go for the quality. And like I said,
Absolutely.
I'd rather have 2 or 3 really close friends than a bunch of just hangout dudes, you know?
And I have some hangout dudes here.
Sure, there's nothing
I
wrong
have
with having them. But are those the guys you're going to call when you're at your lowest?
No.
No.
But I've started to weed out the hangout dudes.
Yeah. Same.
And now all I have
well, I never
are
really had a lot anyway.
my call dudes.
Yeah, that's all you
But
need.
my girls from Texas, they're always there.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
They're always there. And I
that's
just
the kind of
think
thing that's so invaluable you can't even put a price on it.
you have to continue. And I think that your boys, I would hope you would instill in them, because as a man, you don't usually do that, right? These people that are
Do
your
what?
friends keep friends for a long time. So these people that are your friends in high school, middle school right now,
Yeah.
if they are truly your friends, don't lose contact. Even if you only have contact, I mean, I could not talk to one of these people for 1 year,
Yeah.
and we would pick up exactly where we left off and
Sure.
never have, why haven't you called me for a year?
Yeah.
And women are like that.
Well, that happened to me and Stillwell. Our lives just went in different directions.
Right.
You know, you get out of high school, you get married, and you're raising kids, and things get busy.
but
then,
always come back.
But then we, reconnected for the podcast, and we've been as close as ever. You know, it's one of those
Right.
things. But I think a lot of men, you were talking about men earlier, a lot of men, once they get either engaged or married, like the wife takes control. And it's like, here's what you're allowed to do, here's who you're allowed to see, here's, and you have to get permission. And I've seen this, I can't even, definitely 99.
Then you're not marrying the right person.
Well, I'm just saying, a lot of dudes do it to themselves, where they're
Yes.
like, okay, I got to get that pussy, so I'll do whatever you say. And pussy whip's a real thing.
Yeah.
So, like,
And it ain't even that good most of the time.
I wouldn't be able to speak to that about the wives, but You know what I'm saying? It's like they're not allowed to hang out anymore. Because, like,
That's
a
unfortunate.
lot of women, I'm not saying all, but a lot of women want to have tabs on what their men are doing and who they're hanging out with. And, you know, they don't want it to devolve into a good old boy hangout. But, you know, since we've been doing the party pods and having guys hang out, it's good for us.
Yeah.
It's good for us to get together and shoot the shit and talk shit. Because it's hard to do that in life unless you have something like a podcast or a poker game or
Or
a
a
regular...
strong woman that says, okay, you can hang out with your buddies, but guess what, Brad? I'm coming too. So you can have 5 guys in the room.
we don't really need
No.
y'all here for that.
Yeah, but
Guys need their time. Women need their time.
well, I don't always need my time with women because sometimes I need my time with men.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? I'm not the person. I would never tell Ted. Like, he still has his best friend from high school that he talks to that
That's
went to
great.
college, and they're in fraternity together, and I met him, and I wasn't his favorite person. He didn't like me at all
Yeah.
because guess what? I tell you like it is.
You're a wild lady. You know this about yourself, though. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, we're talking like 22, 23.
Yeah, I mean, like, you love me or you hate me. There's no in between.
We've established that.
Yeah, right.
But
so-
I talk a lot about frequency, right?
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we're on a very similar kind of frequency.
Absolutely.
You know,
I
The
don't like to be a
IDGAF frequency.
judge, right?
Yeah.
I think that
Well,
we have
a
one judge.
little bit you do.
Now, okay, I'm not saying I don't judge people. I'm just saying I'm not the judger of people.
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm not going to maybe talk about you, but I would never say anything about you that I wouldn't say to your face.
Okay, well, I was going to say, would you tell me to my face or would you just talk shit behind my back?
No, I will always tell you to your
I
face.
kind of feel like I believe you.
Oh, you know I
Well,
believe.
you say higher, so are you a religious lady?
I believe in God. I've
Okay.
accepted Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
okay.
been. I pray.
You go to
Yeah.
church?
The church that I used to go to, my preacher got a little political
Mhm.
on the pulpit, and so I haven't
right.
been.
Okay.
And then
Was he going full MAGA on you?
Not necessarily,
I'm just trying to troll you. I don't care.
but he did go political, and then it all got LBGQTA. Okay, I don't know all the acronyms. I just know that my initials are in all of them.
Woo.
So
There we go.
I'm not going to judge you on that. I mean, I'm not
It's
your judge.
LGBTQIAAP+.
Okay, so there's the T, there's a Q. Is there an S in there?
No, but there should be.
Okay, well that would be my middle initial. So 2 of my initials are in there,
It's in
right?
the plus.
Oh, it's in the plus. Okay.
And if I got that wrong, I'm sorry. It changes every day. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't be angry at us. We're not judging you.
I
we're
support
just
the
saying
LGBTQIAA+ community.
I
I'm
just
just
went
not
through
gonna-
some adversity
I don't
training.
look good in rainbow.
I just
I don't look good in red either. But
you know when I looked good in rainbow? You know when I looked good in rainbow? When I had gauchos. Do you know what gauchos are?
yeah.
When I was
Unfortunately.
little, and what was the show Rerun was on? What was that show? And they were all of color people,
hmm
and
What show were you talking about?
the little sister Rerun was on
That's
the
the
show.
name of the the character rerun.
Yeah.
This isn't one I saw.
Okay, so we used to watch the show all the time, but the little sister of the best friend of Rerun always had these gauchos, and it had a rainbow right here.
Okay.
That's the only time I ever wore a rainbow,
Yeah.
but I had to have them because it was on TV.
Yeah.
What's the name of that? Good Time. No, not Good Times.
No, not Good Times.
But that was a great show too.
Yeah, I don't know. It is kind of weird to me. You know, you talk about, like, I didn't grow up that much differently than my dad,
Yeah.
who didn't grow up that much differently from his dad. I mean, my grandfather rode a horse to school, but like change was pretty
That's
gradual.
greatness.
You know, it
Right.
was pretty gradual. TVs were around, but then they went to color, and then they got bigger, right? But you still had roughly the same technology until the internet hits. And so you talk about from the 90s to today is some of the fastest progression in history
For sure.
in this small amount of time. So
Yeah.
people, like, as 42, I kind of feel like I'm 62 because things have changed so fast, right? They've
Well,
changed
it's
at a
just
faster
hard for us
progression.
to keep up with it.
Right.
Because our kids know so much more than we do, which is scary in
Well,
and
we
of
knew
itself.
more than our parents when we were that age, too, right?
I remember my first computer was a Commodore 64.
Mm.
And I played Frogger
All hail
on
the
it.
Commodore.
And
All
I
hail
played
the Commodore.
Frogger on
Yes,
Commodore
ma'am.
64. And that's how I feel now when I cross Walton.
Yeah, did you ever see that Seinfeld where George Costanza?
Yes.
crossed the-
God. I was a
Yeah.
Friends person.
yeah.
Did you do Friends, or
Fuck
you?
no.
If you're not Friends, you're totally Seinfeld.
If you are a straight man and you're watching Friends, you are a liar. About
Okay,
being straight.
Ted. Just so you know, Brad just called you a liar.
I'm just saying.
I
I don't
mean,
know
that
any
was
straight
a-
men who watch Friends.
Well, he probably watched it because I watched it.
Yeah,
That
that's why.
shit is funny as fuck.
So my buddy Danny
Oh,
Darling.
am I allowed to say that?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's a podcast. The FCC can't control podcasts.
Oh, okay.
It's a wild west on the internet now. When we were I want to go back to something I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Was Levi was talking about how he watched Happy Gilmore on TV, and they would edit out the curses, and
Because it was TV.
because it was TV, and then he saw the movie, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know he said pieces of shit for breakfast." Mm-hmm. Right? But like, I've never really given a shit about like the language thing.
Right.
It's like, you know, don't use it inappropriately around your mother or around anybody who's going to get back to me. But like, as long as it's funny and use it appropriately, I'm not going to say anything. You know.
Well, and that, let me take you back to that, because that's people protecting their children.
Oh, I
To
protect
a
them from certain
default.
things.
To a default.
Yeah.
So we lived in Connecticut, Ted, Taylor, and I, and my mom and dad, and my little brother Steven, when 9/11 happened. I was sitting on my couch.
How far away is that in miles? You know?
I don't know miles,
Or like how
but
long
I
of a
know we were an hour away from
No
9/11.
shit.
Yeah, and
Wow.
then
That's
30 minutes
crazy.
down the road was what do you call the ship company when they go to ships? Naval.
I guess.
We had a naval base
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
minutes down the road. Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to sound stupid because I don't know, but
Neither of us know fucking anything.
so my child, and on 9/11 when this happened, I think that she was in the second grade, and I had a really good friend that just took me in, because the East Coast, you know, everybody says, "Oh, they're so mean. They're not nice, whatever." Now, that's not the case. They're more reserved. First time I went to the grocery store when we moved there, started talking to the lady behind me, and she was like this. "Are you talking to me?" "Oh, I was. I'm so sorry." She was like, "Oh no, it's okay. I'm just not used to people talking to me in the grocery store line."
Right.
So you just kind of have to get used to their way of living, right?
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
Taylor went to a. This is a great story. You're gonna love this. So, Taylor, we had to go. We wanted her in preschool, right? Pre-K before she went to kindergarten. And to Connecticut, you can go to school in kindergarten at 4.5 years old, right? So we needed her to be in pre-K.
Right.
So we had to go. There was one spot left. Miss Pianki was her teacher's name. So we take
What
her for
origin is that? What is Pianki? Where's
I
that
don't
from?
know. It's
Netherlands?
It's I don't know. When we lived on the East Coast, she had so many great teachers. Miss Condorino. I mean,
That's Italian, right?
Right. So, you know, she loved it there. I mean, the child was 3. We would take her to dinner, and she would order surf and turf at $100 a plate, and with her grandpa, she'd get snails. And we're like, okay, girl, we
Are
can't.
snails expensive?
In Connecticut,
In-
they
well,
are.
that's what
Yeah.
It's
Escargot.
so weird that it's a delicacy when you can just go out and grab a snail.
I wouldn't eat it. So I don't eat any of that stuff. But anyway, so we take her to this preschool. And Ted and I are sitting at this table, and Miss Bianchi says, go over there and play. Do we have time? Am I talking too much?
And we got like 2 hours. We're only, oh shit, we've been going for an hour and a half. I thought we just started this thing. Holy shit.
I'm going to have to come back.
Time has, it's when you're having fun.
I know. So
But yeah, we still got time.
okay, so Miss Bianchi says, go play in the kitchen, whatever you want to do. And she's talking to Ted and I and taking our information. What about Taylor? All of this stuff. And so Taylor comes over with her little pad at 3 years old, and she goes, okay, what would you like to order? And Miss Bianchi says, well, what do you have? And she said, we have hamburgers and hot dogs. And she said something else. So we ordered our stuff, and she goes, okay, what would you like to drink? And Mrs. Bianchi says, well, what do you have? And she goes, well, we have water and we have beer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my
fuck.
God. Mrs. Bianchi, we really have more than that in our house. But she goes, they will tell on you every single time. And so so when 9/11 happened, she was in the 2nd grade, and I didn't know what to do. I was watching Good Morning America. I watched these planes hit.
Yeah.
45 minutes from where I lived.
Man.
I called my friend there, and I'm like, where's Frank working today? And she goes, oh, he's over in Fairfield. And I said, okay, he's not in New York City. And she said, no. And I said, turn on the
Frank is who
TV.
again?
My friend's husband.
Okay.
And I said, turn on the TV
Yeah.
to Good Morning America. She turned it on, starts bawling. I said, what do we do? Did we go pick up our kids? Did we leave them at school?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do? She goes, leave them there. They know nothing.
Yeah.
They're safer there than they are here because we don't know what's going to happen 30 minutes down the road to the naval base. And at that time, Ted and I made the choice not to let her watch anything on the news. Right? Bad mistake on my part.
Right.
Because
how old would she have been?
She
you say?
was in the 2nd grade. So she is probably 6.
Okay.
Yeah. And the sad thing is, she doesn't know about the whole experience. But because when we lived there, we went Christmas Eve every year to New York City on the train.
Really?
And would have dinner.
Okay.
We'd go see the Rockettes.
Cool,
So we signed all the everything, the banners, everything that was up. We signed them that year.
Yeah.
I still don't think she got it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's pretty young.
Way young. And
Yeah.
and we didn't let her exposed to that.
Right.
I now regret that.
Okay. Why so?
Because she doesn't know anything about it. It was a major part of our life. It would have
So
been
you
like
think-
me
you
not
think
knowing
you-
anything about the Vietnam War.
So you think you should have explained to her what exactly
Yes, sir.
happened? Do you think she would have comprehended it?
I don't think she would have comprehended all of it, but I think if I would not have turned off the TV for a month,
Yeah.
she gets the gravity of what happened because she can now go back and learn it.
Yeah.
They don't teach it in school, which amazes me because in Texas, they teach Texas history.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that happened in Texas, they teach it.
Right.
But they don't teach these things in school to our kids
Right.
about our history, which also makes them very not informed about what happened in their life when they were young.
100%.
So then when they do learn it, they're like, why didn't I know this?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I comprehend it? Or how do I move on knowing that all these people died trying to save Americans,
Yeah.
firefighters, police officers, pavilions. I
Yeah.
mean,
So so I was staying with my girlfriend at her dorm at the time, and was watching. Pretty sure 9/11 was a Tuesday morning, because I was watching Monday Night Football. It was Broncos versus Giants. Brian Greasy was the quarterback, and Ed McCaffrey was still playing. He was my favorite player. And Brian Greasy throws it to him up the middle, lays him out in between two secondary. Anyway, he ends up like breaking his leg or something. He gets carted off. And so the way I found out about 9/11 was, that was Monday Night Football. The next morning, I turned it on ESPN to see if there's an injury update on Ed McCaffrey, and the Twin Towers are smoking. And it was like, and my first reaction was like, why is this on ESPN? I didn't even think about this being in America.
For sure.
You know? And it took me a minute, and I was
Who
like,
does that in America?
yeah. It was like, what is this fucking bullshit going on? I want to hear about my sports. And I was like, wait, that's in New York? Like, that fucking happened? You know? And I was... gosh,
I'm a Good Morning America watcher.
Yeah.
All the time. I'm watching it. Charlie, all of them are like, what? We just got word that a plane hit the Twin Towers.
Close.
And it's just like, oh my God. So Ted only works 3 miles down the road, right? And it's just like, okay, now I'm really scared because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. My child's in school.
Yeah.
My husband's at work.
Yeah.
I got a naval base down the road. Is it going to be hit next? I mean, shit like that really traumatizes you. So I'll tell you one more incident, and then if you need to go, we can go. So
No, we're good.
I started
well, you got a ride coming anyway, right? We
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
wait for we're fine.
So I started my real estate career in 2006.
Okay.
A couple years after we moved here, and I started with a gentleman named Stacy Walton at Northwest Arkansas Real Estate. Great mentor, great person. Came from Walmart, high up. He, his sister, and brother-in-law opened up a real estate company. Well, they hired me to do marketing. I didn't have any freaking marketing background.
Right.
But I knew somebody that worked there, and they vouched for me, and their mom vouched for me. So he hires me. So, come to find out, I work my way up. I go from marketing to, then I'm his assistant. And he has seizures. He had fallen off a horse when he was younger and hit his head. And so that's what brought on these seizures.
Damn.
So he would have them in the office. So me and another agent, which I'm not going to name their names, but some of my greatest friends that I could always call if I needed anything, we would put him on our car and we would take him to the hospital. And then we would leave him and we would go. And so it finally got to the point where the doctor said, you can't bring him anymore. You have to call 911.
Right.
So that's what we started doing. Well, some things changed in his life, whatever. And he moved into a house really close to our office, but I always knew his schedule.
Right.
And he always made sure I knew his schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew where he was and how he was.
Right.
And I'm close friends with his wife, have known his children since they were young. And so he had a dentist appointment one day. And the dentist called. The office transferred the phone to me. And they were like, hey, Stacy was supposed to be here at 7:30, 8 o'clock. He's not here. And I'm like, okay, let me figure it out. It's not the first time I had this phone call, right? So I called him, texted him, didn't answer. So I got in my car, drove to his house, knocked on the door, didn't answer. And then I walked back out and I'm like, okay, the garage door's open. Go in the garage. He's in his car, and he's gone. Don't know how to get the garage. I don't know how to get the door
Yeah.
open to try to help him.
Yeah.
It's hot outside.
Yeah.
Don't know. Call 911. I will tell you the one thing I learned out of this, if you have a trailer hitch on your car, take it off and break the window.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. But he's
Yeah.
already gone. Very traumatic in my life.
Yeah.
So just another setback
Yeah.
that you have to kind of try to deal with.
Yeah.
So it's a series of events. And if you don't have the backup, God, Brad, what do you do?
Well, I don't know how you solve it for the country. I think, honestly, looking into a lot of the chemicals that go into our food, things like that, but it's also people not having a tribe, people feeling like they're different. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it, but the most important thing you can have is somebody close to talk to. And my DMs are open. If anybody has any, you just want to talk about
I'm
depression,
always here
addiction,
for everything.
holler at me. I know Hal Henson is a great mentor. He's somebody to reach out to. Check out his book, Firelight. I can't stress it enough. This is a really good book, folks. But having somebody on the other end of the phone, even if they're halfway across the country, is really important. And when you are feeling low, like I said before, the worst thing you can do is isolate yourself.
And so
Get with somebody.
Do you know the phone number to call, the suicide prevention?
Is it 811?
I believe it's
I
811.
think, yeah, something like that. But yeah, if you want to talk
If
to
you
a
have
stranger and you call the
nobody.
suicide hotline and you have nobody, man, it's better than nothing. But I really hope the stigma of mental illness continues to go away.
Absolutely.
And especially as men, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to show weakness. It's hard to show emotion.
And that's
but
so
I don't
sad
think
to
it
me.
is weakness.
It's
I
not
think
a
it's
weakness.
stronger to say, "Hey, I've got this issue, and I want to." To
You
me,
know what? As a woman, as a wife, I would rather know that you feel what I'm feeling
yeah.
than us just not talk about it.
Oh, 100%. I think it's weaker to say, I'm just going to tough this out. Like, what? That's a fucking antiquated idea.
Absolutely.
It's stronger to say, hey, I've got this issue. I need to talk it through. And I'm so blessed to have friends I can talk to about it now. And had I not started this podcast, I wouldn't have that network. And now I'm introducing other people to each
Yeah.
other for what,
I mean,
like I've sent
you
business
can
to
DM
Austin.
me anytime.
Yeah.
I'm here. I've been through it. I've been through the molestation. I've been through the depression. As a woman, when you go through menopause, one of the biggest things you go through is a depression.
Yeah.
And you have to figure it out.
100%.
Right? So I fit all of these categories.
Yeah.
And I've had family members and friends that have committed suicide because they didn't feel like they had anywhere to turn, even though they did have somebody to turn to.
Right.
You just have to keep iterating.
But
it.
again, when you get in that space, just
You don't know what to do.
Recognize that your instinct is that you want to be alone,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to burden people with it. That's part of it.
That was what I was thinking today. You don't want to be a
I
burden
don't
on
wanna
somebody
throw
else.
this on someone else, but if you have someone who loves you, I guarantee you they'd rather you burden them with it than have
You
to
know
go to your
what?
damn funeral.
And here's my thing. And I'm not. I don't want anybody to think what I'm going to say is. I'm just going to say it. Suicide is selfish. You can't help it, and I get it. But how many people are you leaving behind that love you so much
Yeah.
that would have been there to help you?
Well, that has saved me because I think of what are the consequences to them. Yeah, I'm checked out. I don't have to deal with it anymore. But what am I leaving my wife and kids behind?
Exactly.
And that's tragic. As somebody who lost an aunt at 10, that fucked me up, and I wasn't even close to her.
Right.
It was just
Because you
As
didn't know as a 10-year-old what it meant.
or why somebody could get
And
to that
if you were
place.
a Christian, they told you, oh, guess what? Your aunt's going to go to hell.
Right.
I don't believe that.
If God is kind, I don't
God
think
is kind.
I don't think he is.
I had
Yeah.
a minister growing up that told me he didn't really believe in hell
Yeah.
because God is so kind,
Yeah.
and you can say in your last breath, please forgive me, and he's going to take you
See,
every
I
single
lean
time.
toward more. If there is, I believe in a higher power. I just am not smart enough to comprehend what that even means. I can't even comprehend AI, let alone God, right? So, like, there's all these people who are like, God is this and this and this. It's like, bitch, you don't know shit.
Well, and
We're
see,
all just here trying to figure things out. I think the cool podcast would be to have a preacher from 9 different denominations and just say, go.
well, you know what a great podcast will be? I grew up in church.
Yeah, so did I.
So
That's
I know
that's
what I was
ruined me on
taught,
it.
right?
Let's go into it.
Now, Ted didn't grow up in church.
Mm,
Ted didn't get baptized until we moved to Arkansas
yeah.
because
Why did you do
he
it
is
then?
like, well, but we went through some counseling with our minister
Yeah.
because not everybody has a faith.
Yeah.
Some people need to see to believe.
Yeah. I know if I was a god, I would demand that everybody sprinkles little bits of water on their head.
Oh, I was immersed.
That's, yeah. Or that.
Already.
Be like, what can I do to
Thank
make
God
it
they brought me
really-
back up. But I mean, if you and so, I mean, do I dare say, God, I will be crucified for this, but do I dare say the guys that took down the towers on 9/11, that's how they grew up, that's how they were raised, to hate Americans,
Oh, certainly.
to hate God,
Right.
to hate everything that we
well,
stand
they,
for.
they have their own god.
They
But their god
they have
conflicts
Allah,
with...
and they have somebody else.
Well, it's like the Gaza Israel thing. It's like they're both religions.
This is why they died doing what they did,
Right.
but killing us for what they did.
But it all goes back to Abraham, and of course he's married to Sarai or Sarah.
Sarah, he
and
got
then-
lots of wives.
And then he fucked Hagar and he hit that child, and it all branched out.
Well,
That's why, guys,
but
when you're
Sarah
married,
told him to.
I know, but dudes, don't get another chick pregnant when you're married. I think we can probably agree on that.
Absolutely.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up because we got a football game, a tribal football game. We can.
You do, and my
fucking-
husband said I got to take you during the football game, and then
I can
my
be home in
child,
time.
and then no, not for his game. You know, he's Texas, then he's A&M.
He's got all the teams.
Yeah,
That's the thing about Ted. He wins no matter what because he supports them all.
No,
It's a good.
we have the Cowboys. We don't always win.
Well, my middle one's a Cowboys fan, so I'm.
Oh, I love him.
I'm like,
I want
dude.
him for my own. Then
Well, my oldest one's he's an Eagles fan. My middle one's a Dallas fan, so that's always
so
interesting.
Taylor,
They play
my
twice a
daughter's
year.
picking me up with her
Yeah.
boyfriend Adonis. He's at LSU,
Wait,
and she's
what's his
like
name?
Adonis.
Wow,
Well, okay,
that's
so
a
he's
cool fucking name.
well, it is, and he said my mom was really into astrology when she named me, and so when people call my name at the doctor's office or wherever we're at,
I'm gonna tell Stool to just come in here and get on the pod.
yeah, because of the way it's spelled. Do you know how to spell my name?
Yours?
Uh-huh.
Trecia.
Tell me how you would say that if you didn't know my name.
Trecia.
All right. I have been called so many different names. And so it's so funny because my mom said, oh, God, when you were born, they gave us the best drugs ever.
Yeah.
Hence the reason my name is spelled the way it is.
Is
Hence
that really true?
Yes, that's what she says. Absolutely. She didn't know how to, she said she was so out of it, she didn't know how to spell my name.
I'd never seen it spelled that way.
Nobody has ever seen
How do
it
you
spelled that way.
pronounce it?
Trisha.
It is Trisha.
It's
okay.
Trisha.
Yeah, so that's the first time I'd ever seen it spelled that way, and I was like, before I actually heard it said, it was like, I don't want to just pronounce this on my own. I want to hear somebody else say
You
it
should hear
first.
people in the doctor's
Trecia.
office. Trecia. Trecia.
What's up, Stillwell?
Teresa. Hi, Stillwell.
Jason Stillwell.
Make some
Hi.
room for this bad boy.
Okay,
We're wrapping
you
this
want
son of a
here?
bitch
Good,
up.
we're
Or he
good.
can stay. Hey,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay.
There you go.
I can skid over for
Scoot
you.
down. We're just wrapping this bitch up.
We've been saying bad words.
Oh, well,
I
that
didn't know we
happens.
could say bad words
Yeah,
here.
that happens. That happens.
Well,
She
and
asked
then
me. She asked me at one point. She's like, "Can we cuss on here?" I was like,
Shouldn't watch any of the other
I
ones.
prefer
no,
you
I
not.
did
I
watch.
prefer you not, but you know.
You
She
You
taught
said
me
the
all
bad
kinds of
word before
language.
you.
I'm offended, to be honest.
You know what? You're like every other man I know. Blame it all on me, bitch.
That's right.
Well, it's been awesome. I'm glad you came out. Episode 54.
So thank you so much for having me, Brad.
We'll
I
do
love
it again.
you.
We'll do it again.
I mean,
love
we
you
had
too.
a great
This was fun.
time. Yes.
It went by fast, didn't
It
it?
did. I didn't even know we were 2 hours in.
I know.
We're
That's
still
how it goes.
talking.
Goes by fast.
That's how it goes. Man, that's a sexy look with the glasses.
I'm just
Look.
today.
Dude, I had to have
I like
glasses. You want to know why? Y'all want to hear my story about my glasses?
Oh, please enlighten us, Trecia. Can I call you Trecia?
You can call me anything you want because I've been called worse. I have to have cataract surgery.
Yeah, you tell me that before the pod. So what?
I'm 56 years old.
When is this going down?
My first one on my left eye is Wednesday.
All right.
But then I want to take a trip to Texas to watch my nephews,
Yeah.
who are really my best friend's sons, who are my best nephews, like we just call them nephews. We play water polo in Sherman. So I put off the second surgery so I could travel, because you can't travel like 2 weeks after one surgery.
Right.
So yeah, we're gonna go watch the boys.
That'd be cool.
The boy play water polo. My nephew. I mean, her parents have died young, and so her boys have been on family trips that I've never been on with my parents, and the motorhome, family reunions. I mean, they're the only grandparents that
Yeah.
they've ever known. But Dad's in the hospital, so hopefully Mom can come and watch a few games. But yeah,
Water polo. That's pretty cool.
dude,
It takes some strength.
I can't even
Tread water.
tread my water in my own swimming
How deep
pool.
are they? Like, you can't touch.
They're-
right?
they're nine.
Constantly.
If
fucking-
you
And you gotta grab it and throw it.
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
touch
that's
the
nice.
bottom,
Yeah, soccer.
if you touch the bottom, it's a foul.
Is
You're
it
out.
really?
Yeah,
Is how far down is it usually?
9
Like,
feet.
9? Well, that'd be hard to touch the fucking bottom.
Not when you got a 7'8" guy from Kenya on your
I
team.
thought you were gonna say Nicaragua. I was way off. There you go.
No,
Fucking
I mean
Kenyans,
it's so
man.
fun. I mean
Yeah.
these kids are like my sons. I've Taylor nannied for him her whole life,
Yeah.
and went on vacations with the families, cruises. She went on more vacations with them she did with me and Ted, and she got paid for it. So, I mean, you know what? She's been my friend since I was in the 10th grade, and she'll go see her work is 5 minutes from my dad's hospital room.
So what's the prognosis on your dad right now? Not good.
Today he got diagnosed with lymphoma
Yeah. But
cancer
is that-
because of the
because of
double
all the
transplant.
But is that reversible, treatable, or
They're treating it, but they have to back off the immune drugs, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a balance. If you back off the drugs that are keeping your lungs alive, and then you bring in the new drugs for the lymphoma, I mean it's a fine line.
Yeah.
But
He's 75.
he's going to be 75
Gonna be.
at the end of the month. He's
Yeah.
not even 75 yet. So I mean,
Yeah.
he's not even that old, right?
Yeah. What was he a smoker?
He was
or-
a smoker way back, and he hadn't smoked for years. And then
Really?
he got COPD with
What is that?
this. I don't know, but it's bad. And he got it with
All right.
something else,
Bad kids.
which is like, if he hadn't got the lung transplant, he wouldn't be with us today.
Sure.
Right? So none of us got to say, he's got 5 children.
Yeah.
And my mom, none of us got a say in whether he wanted it or didn't. He wanted to make the decision on his own. He
Right.
didn't want us to have any part of it. And so he made the decision to have it. And things haven't gone exactly like we thought they would. No fault of anybody's own.
Yeah.
Started this last couple months bleeding internally and trying to find it, and then they found out that he had lymphoma. So, you know, I found all that out this morning,
Yeah.
and I could have checked out.
I'm glad you
I
came
could have
out.
gone to my bed,
I'm glad
right?
you came out.
I could have gone to my bed. I could have
Yeah.
stayed there all day
Yeah.
and
Don't do
and,
that.
and just done that. And Ted did ask me,
Yeah.
"Are you going to check out?" And I
Well,
said, "No, I'm gonna go. I still want you to take me. Taylor's still going to pick me up.
Yeah.
I still want to go because I need it.
Yeah.
If I don't have this outlet,
Absolutely.
I don't know what to do."
Yeah. I can't imagine losing it. I know Stillwell's gone through it. He lost his dad, and
Oh, I'm so sorry.
it's something that I can't even. You're talking about
Right.
You can be there for somebody. Say, hey, I'm here to talk, but unless you've gone through it, it's hard to.
and
really
and I
imagine.
don't know what my dad feels like. Is my dad done?
Have you talked
Because
to him about it?
He hasn't really been available,
Yeah.
right? Because he's just had so much
Is
going
he
on.
glazed?
Sometimes,
Is he just fucking out of
sometimes,
it all the time?
but he's good with his doctors and his nurses
Yeah.
that he talks to. But nobody wants to say to their dad, are you done with the quality of life that you have, or are you ready to check out?
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand it both ways. His
Yeah.
quality of life for the last year has not been
Yeah.
what it would have been. He'd be gone now
My
if
grandpa
he
used
didn't
a
do it.
shotgun to check out, so I get it.
Well,
if
we're
it
not
gets
going to
bad
give my
enough-
dad a shotgun, but
No, I'd keep him
we can
away.
refuse treatment, and he can choose that way. But yeah, I mean, it's just he's in Texas. I'm not there.
Yeah.
And
Is that
so,
hard for you to be that
oh, way.
far away?
So when he first got sick, I lived there for the first 2 months, and my cousin Trishelle was
You have a cousin, Treshelle.
And I always make fun of her and say, "Oh, you're named after me," and she just always calls me a bitch
Hold
and
on,
said,
her,
"Don't."
her name's Treshelle, and she's white.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she white.
Okay, I'm just asking questions here.
No, that's a great question though. We get that question all the time.
Okay.
But I went down when my mom and dad needed to move, and we went in the freaking cold and rain. I don't know what was wrong with us. I don't even know why we thought we could do this. It's pouring rain. I know why we thought we could do it, because my mom and dad were in an Airbnb that cost them $2,000 a month. So Trishelle and I went, and we found a cottage for them to live in. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, whatever. And we just started Facebook marketplacing, right? Bought them couches, bought them a chair, bought them silverware. My girlfriends that I told you I've been friends with for so long donated glasses, lamps, furniture, anything they could donate. They donated for us. And so my mom and dad all have it. And yeah, that's when I think that where your two friends come from.
Yeah, 100%.
Is the people that are there for you. So yes, it's very hard to be here. So for 2 months I went there and I worked from there, and I let my mom have 2 days off a week, and I would take all my computer stuff because I was a realtor. I could work from anywhere I wanted, and I would work from my dad's hospital room, let my mom stay home, rest, because she was no good to anybody if she didn't have any sleep. And after those 2 months, I did need to come back home because I I didn't have a leader anymore in real estate. So I started my own business, and so I needed to come home to get that going as a transaction coordinator. And now I'm just getting back into my real estate stuff. So it's really hard now. My mom and dad came home for 2 weeks, and so now it's really hard that I'm not there. And I'm not sure it's not harder that I'm not there for my mom
Yeah, sure.
than I'm not there for my dad. Right?
Keep the lines of communication open for sure.
For sure. I mean, it's hard. I mean, and you only have 2 kids, right? 3. You have a middle child.
I do.
How's your middle child?
No, he's the one you talk to.
He's probably the most empathetic, sympathetic, needs the most nurturing. That's me.
That's
I'm the
true.
middle child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it kills me
Yeah.
not to be able to be there
Yeah.
as the middle child. And as, you know, I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but if you have 3 kids and you have a middle child,
Yeah.
you know exactly what that means.
Well, you know, you always got somebody to talk to here.
I do.
Absolutely.
I
Thank
love
you for
you.
coming on. Love you, lady. This has been awesome. We'll do it again.
Nice to meet you.
Still a guest appearance.
Ah.
Yes, sir.
All right, we got to get over to Nathan's before he starts.
Watch the LSU game.
Okay,
Oh, he's
is my
already-
ride here?
Yes, there's a car.
Did we turn this off or am I still recording?